Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Local authorities across the UK have expressed serious concerns about how they're going to deliver public services post-Brexit. Sky News has exclusively gained access to 30 internal impact reports from various county councils, which all paint a pretty bleak picture. Their main concerns appear to be the availability of food and medicines, the implications on social care, and even the possibility of social unrest. Our political editor, Faisal Islam, is here with the details. What have you found out, Faisal?
In a major Freedom of Information investigation, Sky News' Brexit Forensics project has obtained a large number of Brexit impact studies conducted by local councils across the United Kingdom. It's just a picture of councils exasperated by central government and scrabbling to make Brexit contingency plans. We've got information from 30 councils across the country, and let's take a closer look at 5 of them. You heard about Kent and Dover District Council yesterday. Huge fears there about a log-jammed M20 for 4 years if border checks are applied in Dover. But Dover's not the only port area. Let's take a look at Pembrokeshire and take a look at this document, a risk register, 19 ways that they think Brexit will affect them, all but one of them listed in black as a negative. 7 are red, likely to have a high impact. Right at the top there, the imposition of border controls and the ready availability of vital supplies, foodstuffs and medicines being investigated by the Council's Department of Emergency Planning. There is one positive: people might move away, so there will be less demand on council services. The Shetland Islands Council expressed concern about agricultural land prices, and this chart of the impact of different trading arrangements for types of farms across the Highlands and Islands shows that under a no-deal on World Trade Organization terms, 86% of sheep farms would be loss-making versus half now. Bristol Council warns of a top-line threat of social unrest or disillusionment during or after negotiations, as neither Leave nor Remain voters feel their concerns are being met. And then there's East Sussex Council, one of a number of councils expressing concerns about the Brexit impact on social care. There's been a fall in the number of EU nationals taking jobs in the care sector, and the county council has great concerns that the end of freedom of movement will put further pressure on a sector that's already stretched, it says in its reports. Almost all councils expressed huge concerns over actually how the Treasury will replace EU structural and regional funds, particularly now that any money that does appear has been promised to the NHS. But the biggest common feature: exasperation. They just do not know what to plan for as they await the government. And remember, the government itself is yet to publish its Brexit impact and preparedness studies.
Faisal, thank you.
Actually, no, let's go to Dover. Crikey, it's almost like we planned this stuff. John Shirley is the head honcho at John Shirley Limited, freight forwarders, who has been in touch with the programme since Kieran, actually, the van driver, first shone a light into some of these dark corners. He joins us on the line now. John, let's begin with the most important question of all. Is do you recognise some of these predictions and descriptions, or does Charlie Elphick and John Redwood have it right, and we should all just calm down and cross our fingers more tightly and believe more in Britain?
Well, frankly, James, I've been dealing with freight and customs in countries like the Ukraine, Serbia, etc., for all that time, for 30 years. And we know what a problem customs can be. Now, we've got to look at some facts here. There are over 10,000 trucks going in and out of Dover, of which only 1% do customs clearance. And if you were to come to Dover, I could show you that the lorry park by customs is already full.
Yes.
That the trucks coming out of the tunnel, there's nowhere to do customs clearance at the tunnel. They will have to come here as well. So you're looking at a massive amount of trucks going nowhere. And it's 10,000 trucks on day one, and it's 20,000 day two. 30,000 day three, because each day 10,000 trucks are supposed to be going in and out of Dover. So when a truck is stuck in the industry, we ask the shipper, or whoever's ordered the truck from us, to pay what is called demurrage.
Yes.
So that is standing time, and it's usually £250 a day.
Oh
so imagine the
Of course it is, because otherwise you've got a hole in your finances.
Yeah, and it's a driver-accompanied truck. You know,
Yeah.
the guy's got to be fed and watered and all the rest of it. So, now another thing, the tailbacks are going to be for years because there's only 200 customs clerks left in East Kent. Now, customs clerks work for private companies, and they prepare the entry ready for the truck to arrive, and when that truck arrives, the agency for customs hands in the papers to customs officers, who then either approve it within about an hour, I'd say a minimum of about an hour, or if they don't like the fact that it's in the wrong, there's discrepancy, say the currency or the number of packages or the weight or whatever, they'll reject it. That's what we call going Route 6, and he could be here for several hours, and that's just one truck.
Hey, I'm going to do a bit of psychology on you, John, if that's all right, because I sense that you, as someone who has spent his entire working life dealing with these issues...
Absolutely.
You look at the prospect of a no-deal Brexit, or indeed of an as-yet unspecified deal Brexit, and you can't quite believe that politicians and some pundits and commentators are weaponising ignorance to a degree...
Well, absolutely.
I mean, it's surreal to you, this, right?
Yeah, it is economic suicide. It really is. It's absolute madness. 40 years. So I remember what it was like when we did customs clearance with Germany, France, Italy, and so on and so forth. And there were 2,000 of these customs clerks. I'm making a point of this because nobody's mentioning them.
No, that's what we're here for.
And and the number of trucks has gone up 400%. James. So that means, in effect, we need 8,000 customs clerks to service customs itself.
And we've got how many?
200. And we also need their counterparts on the continent. So it's 8,000, spread across, say, from Vilnius down to Zagreb, down to...
Because a customs agreement or a customs union is precisely that. It is. It allows free and frictionless travel. I hesitate to ask you this question, John Shirley, but I have to. It's my job. As things stand, what's the best case scenario?
We stay in Europe.
No, not that. I mean, if we don't stay in Europe, what is the best case scenario?
Well, I can't really say, James, because it takes a year to train a customs clerk, just the basics. You have to read through a tariff heading, book, which is about 6 inches thick. Know all these different tariffs for, shoes and trousers or whatever it is. I can tell you that, a truck, people think a truck's got one commodity on it. A truck can have 50 on there.
Of course it can.
And if, say, one of those importers or shippers has got some discrepancy with their paperwork, it will hold up the whole truck, all the other 50 consignments.
Everyone behind it.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about IPR and OPR, because that's when you send stuff out like trimmings out to a factory in, say, Romania to be made into a skirt or a dress or something, like you send out the buttons or the trimmings. A clerk then, when those finished products come into Dover as hanging garments, then has to deduct all the buttons, the trimmings, this, that, and the other from the garments. It takes that single clerk all day just to do one truck.
I'm going to try again. Because I think I've got problems when it comes to Brexit and this sort of incredible frustration that I feel pointing at the naked emperor, being surrounded, not least of it, in this radio station, surrounded by people who keep saying he's got clothes on, and I can see his buttocks. They are quivering in the summer breeze. I could say, but you must. I mean, compared to you, my life is easy. You must be sitting there every day going...
Well, it could ruin my business, yeah.
Well, not just ruin it. I mean, you're out of business, aren't you?
Well, and my customers, you've got just-in-time deliveries to production lines, that sort of thing.
And how do you account for it, then? If I said to you, how the hell has this happened? How have we ended up months away from a potential cliff edge without anybody... in power having apparently the vaguest knowledge or even interest in what's at the bottom of the cliff?
Yeah, because they don't know about customs clearance, because it's so... there's a whole generation have grown up since 1992, I'm not saying the politicians, but who haven't got any experience of customs at all.
And they didn't need it, of course, because if we were still in the customs union, it's an area... it's an area, it's like you don't need to know the offside rule if you're playing golf.
No. It's like, say, I remember they used to say, oh, you can't have more than 200 cigarettes in your vehicle,
that's right.
and you can't have so many bottles of wine, and there's all that. People are going to get really angry.
I think, John, stay there, because I think this guy is actually your MP. Listen to this.
The ministers should have been making sure that we were fully prepared and funding the investment needed.
No deal would still be okay.
Because our country, when it's necessary, when our back's against the wall, there's nothing we can't overcome, no challenge we can't overcome, nothing we can't do.
Well, that's great rhetoric, isn't it? But we've got 2 reports here saying it's going to look pretty terrible in Dover in the circumstances of a no deal because nothing's been sorted out.
And that's why...
That's what no deal means.
There you go, John. You don't need to worry, mate. If we've got...
Yeah, and don't forget, we at least have 200 clerks here.
Yes.
They got none at all on the Welsh-Irish border, say at Holyhead or down in Pembroke, on that ferry route, and certainly got none up in Northern Ireland. There aren't any clerks, and there aren't any customs officers.
And yet you have there an elected Conservative MP, your MP, I think, the MP for Dover.
Yes, I know, Charlie.
Well, what's he got between his ears, John?
Well, I can't comment on that, but it is.
Well, comment on the words then, comment on the words, not the biology. Right? When somebody says, no deal, that kicks in on the end of March of next year. He's suggesting, and he is one of the people that says it will be fine. And his reason for believing it will be fine is because, hang on, let's just remind ourselves just the shorter version.
Our country, when it's necessary, when our back's against the wall, there's nothing we can't overcome, no challenge we can't overcome.
There you go. So, albeit that you've got 40 years of experience in customs and freight forwarding and shipping and international transport, albeit that this is your entire life and livelihood that you're describing, albeit that your expertise is second to none, and albeit that your interest is both personal and professional, when this country's got its back to the wall, we'll come up with a solution, John.
Well, I would like to point out something graver. Because I speak Bosnian, and I've done shipments to Bosnia for all that time as well, and Croatia, and including when they were war zones.
Oh, God.
And the breakup of Yugoslavia, we saw 8,000 men and boys murdered in Srebrenica. So imagine if this Brexit goes ahead, it will give a lead to other countries, and we could see the breakup of Europe. We could see millions of people being killed in outbreaks of war if it goes down the same route as Yugoslavia.
Once people start fighting over resources or fighting over anything, then the very notion of union goes out the window. I was scared enough already. I mean, without necessarily that prospect appearing on the horizon. John, we should talk again. I hate interviews like this because... You've just painted a picture of almost unparalleled bleakness before you made the Bosnian comparisons, just focusing solely on the customs and numbers like we've got 200, we need 8,000. And the other side, so to speak, at this point, as Charlie Elphick just proved, they just go la 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 la, and then March happens. So I've
had 3 camera crews here from the continent. They spend all day with me. I take them to the lorry park and they show that it's already full.
Yeah. How many camera crews from the British Mint? How many
of trucks that are doing customs clearance?
How many camera crews from the BBC have you had?
None.
Boom. So briefly, and remember that we've got to stay bouncy after this. March of next year kicks in, no deal happens. We wake up on April the 1st. The irony is not lost on me. We wake up on April the 1st. What happens immediately? Like actual hour to hour, what happens in Dover, John?
Well, first of all, I have spoken to some drivers, and we've asked them, what's the queue like going out of the EU into, say, Serbia?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not too bad, 6 or 7 kilometres. So that's with a fully functioning, fully staffed border, right? Going into Turkey, it's 3 or 4 days.
Shut up. I'm sorry.
These aren't fully functioning borders.
I
mentioned another thing for you. It's ATA Carne.
Yeah.
We do the rock festivals, the accommodation rock festivals around Europe, and so Switzerland and Norway, for example, are outside the EU. You need this carne to get the stuff out there and get it back in.
Yeah.
Customs Officer went home 2 hours early, so we didn't get the carnet stamp, so the truck missed the ferry, so from Immingham up to Brevik.
Yeah.
So we had to get him on another ferry and go through Denmark, and that cost the shipper an extra £1,300.
Shoosh. We just haven't got a clue. That's all it is. I mean, I can get very cross with some of these people, but their ignorance is if not...
It really, I'm glad you're trying to shine a light on it, because it's really worrying.
It's a lonely job, John, but someone's got to do it. And with your help, I shall continue. Obviously, by way of balance now, we have to remind ourselves of what the MP for Dover says.
The key thing is, these dire predictions, you have to ask those ministers who go around making them, what have they done to make sure that this nation is prepared for all eventualities and prepared for the future? And I think those ministers, the ones who might make these dire predictions, you have to ask, what were they doing to make sure that we were fully prepared, deal or no deal?
So we are where we are now, though.
They didn't do it. And that's what they say, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, we are where we are. But actually, they have serious questions to ask.
Of course. Of course.
What they were doing and why they were not.
They should have done more to prepare, but now they haven't. Does this make the whole no-deal scenario look pretty inadvisable?
No, I don't accept that, because...
Really?
I'll tell you why.
Even though we should have been planning 2 years ago and we haven't?
Even though we should have been planning 2 years ago, even though the ministers should have been making sure that we were fully prepared and funding the investment needed.
No deal would still be okay?
Because our country, when it's necessary, when our back's against the wall, there's nothing we can't overcome, no challenge we can't overcome, nothing we can't do.
Well, that's great rhetoric, isn't it? But we've got 2 reports here saying it's going to look pretty terrible in Dover in the circumstances of a no deal because nothing's been sorted out.
And that's why...
That's what no deal means.
John Shirley, many thanks. I should probably also point out at this point that Nadine Dorries almost certainly knows more about freight forwarding than you do. John Shirley there. 40 years, man and boy in the business. But don't worry, because Charlie Earl Fixers will be okay. Why? Well, just because, fish.
Now, amid warnings that places like Dover could be plunged into gridlock after Brexit, the department which will deal with the impact is under fire for lack of detail on how customs will cope. That's according to a confidential report about HM Customs seen by this programme, written by one of its own freight advisory groups. Another source has told us that senior customs officials say if there is chaos, checks would be suspended to keep freight flowing, even if this costs tens of millions in lost revenue every day. Our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy, reports.
It's Britain's busiest port, a gateway for goods flowing to and from Europe. Right now, 95% of freight traffic breezes through Dover tariff-free. But in the event of a no deal, Channel 4 News has seen confidential documents that reveal deep unease about the government's level of preparedness for the Brexit chaos down the road. HMRC has set up a series of confidential working groups that meets in this building to try to make customs arrangements post-Brexit run smoothly. But correspondence we have seen from one group shows frustration and fear at the lack of planning. HMRC, they say, is relying too much on technology that simply doesn't exist. It's making assumptions about future customs declarations that are way off the mark. And key assumptions and plans are being kept from the very people who'll be required to implement them. The documents from the Freight Liaison Group say the government's estimate of a 5-fold increase in customs declarations is based on national figures, and the HMRC must recognise that around Dover it could be over 20-fold. This, it warns, could cause gridlock, as Dover and another key customs stop on the M20 would not be able to cope with the burden of processing 200 trucks per hour. And what about the trucks that don't get customs clearance on arrival? Where will they go? And who is responsible for checking they go to the designated security-controlled location? It asks, why have they ignored what we've been saying for 18 months, and warns of a lack of direction from HMRC?
It's no good holding it as confidential information any longer if we're being told to plan for a no-deal exit. It's a really, really challenging situation that we find ourselves in. But the more information we've got, the better the chances are of us able to manage through.
So your message for HMRC?
Is if it's no deal, we need the information, we need it now.
In fact, many believe the reality is that HMRC simply doesn't have the answers. One senior source telling Channel 4 News that HMRC has admitted that in the event of no-deal chaos at Dover, it would simply give up collecting customs tariffs and wave the trucks through.
Free flow more important, the source said, than the loss of tens of millions of pounds of revenue every single day. To avoid that, the government's current plan, codenamed Operation Brock, would see up to 2,000 lorries held over on a 13-mile stretch of the M20 outside Dover. Though a source inside the port said they're worried that plan won't work because just a third of Dover's freight enters via that route, the rest coming in from the A2, which would still lead to huge queues at the port gate. HMRC said tonight it remains on course to deliver a functioning customs system that enables trade to flow in all circumstances, revenues to be collected, and for the UK to maintain a secure border when we exit the EU. Clearly, not everyone agrees.
Well, Westminster and EU politicians have all gone on their summer holidays, it seems, but there's one issue that is refusing to take a break or even a breakfast, and that's Brexit. With lots still going on, we've condensed all you need to know into our regular Brexit Minute. Bon vacances, Monsieur le Président. Thanks for letting me pop in. Good to her word, the Prime Minister is going the extra mile to get EU leaders to back her Brexit plan. And who doesn't like talking about facilitated customs arrangements while chilling in the Côte d'Azur? Bonne chance, madame. One insight into French thinking about the prospects for Brexit came today from the French pharma firm Sanofi, who are stockpiling drugs like insulin to prepare for a no-deal Brexit. This programme is still unclear where stockpiling drugs was written on the side of Boris's Brexit bus. But calm down, diabetics. The right-wing website Guido Fawkes has a holiday message for you. Everything is going to be all right. Meanwhile, on Planet Brexit, their biggest donor, Aaron Banks, has undergone a lie detector test to bat away those awkward questions about his finances. Let's start with a simple one. Is the US in the G7? A fact he fluffed yesterday. But fear not, Brexiteers. Mr. Banks says he's passed his test with flying colours. Phew. There are 240 days to Brexit. Happy holidays.